Welcome to Recharge with Richardson. 5 minutes of hope and inspiration from God's Word every day of your work week. Welcome to another day in which to experience God's grace and His provision in our lives. I'd like to continue for today's Recharge with Richardson, our thoughts from Matthew chapter 6, where Jesus was talking about worry and trust. And I've entitled today's thought, Do You Have Faith? In Matthew chapter 6, we'll continue in verse 27. Jesus writes and says, "Which of you by worrying can add 1 cubit to his stature? So why do you worry about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And yet I say to you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Now, if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is, and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith?" And so it's very interesting as Jesus begins the conversation. He talks about, if you worry, can you add anything to your height? If you worry about being too short, can you add 2 or 3, 4, 5 inches? And what I hear Jesus saying here is there's some principles about worry and trust that I'd like to talk about. And the first one that we find in this verse is worry doesn't change your situation. Just like you can't change anything about your physical body by worrying about it, you can't change life by worrying about it. In fact, worry doesn't do anything positive about the situation. Worry only actually debilitates you. It's actually one of the stressors that depletes your immune system. And so Jesus is telling us worry doesn't change your situation for the positive in any way. And then he goes on to talk about clothing. So why do you worry about clothing? If you can't change your physical situation, can you provide for yourself any better? And then when he says, why worry about clothing? He says, look at the lilies of the field, how they grow. How do they grow? They don't think about it. Now, lilies, flowers, any growing thing needs nutrients from the soil. It needs rain for water and needs sunshine in order to have photosynthesis and to grow well. And so it needs all those 3 things. And yet these flowers, these plants, they don't worry about that. They're not thinking about it. Now, there are days when they don't get sunshine, but they still survive. And there are days when they don't get rain, but they still survive. And what I hear Jesus telling us is, be like that. You're going to have days where some of the things that you think you might need might not be readily apparent, but God always provides. He'll take care of you. Just like he provides for the growing things, God will provide for you. And notice that he goes on to say, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. In other words, what God does is better than what man does. And so trust God that as he provides for you, what he will do for you is better than what you can do for yourself. And then Jesus goes on to say, and so if God takes care of the grass, which today is and tomorrow it's gone, thrown in the oven, just disappears, how much more will he clothe you, O you of little faith? In other words, God's care for insignificant things proves his care for us. We are of so much more value to him that if he takes care of these insignificant things, he will readily and definitely take care of us. And so when we worry about these things, it demonstrates that we are relying on our own strength to take care of ourselves, to do things, instead of trusting in God. And that's why Jesus ends up saying, "Oh, you of little faith." And so I want to challenge us today. When thoughts of worry or fear for the future come, let's make a conscious choice to trust in God. Let's turn away from that worry, from that doubt, and let's choose to trust in God and put our faith in God. And as we do that, we will learn and we will grow and we develop. He will come through for us. I want to tell you today, God's got this. Thank you for joining us for Recharge with Richardson. Join us tomorrow for the next episode, and until then, may God fill you with joy and peace and hope.